what was this great heathen army that invaded England in 865? What can we say about that?
Well, there's this famous scene in the Viking siege of Paris in 845, which is really the Europeans' introduction, or Europe as a whole, to a Viking army, not just a raid, and then what it could do. And the king, the emperor, Charles, said, let's find out what they want and how much do I have to pay to get them to leave? And so his ambassador went to a Viking and said, "Who is your king?" And the Viking looked at him and didn't understand. And he said, "We have no king. We are all kings." So they're very decentralized, tough. They only valued leaders who could prove that they had won, could give out the rings.
So flat organization, very meritocratic.
Yes.
If you're good at what you do, you demonstrate that skill in battle. That means you get to have maybe a leadership position.
That's right.
And the moment you're no longer effective, you don't get to have this leadership position. We're all kings. That's gangster. Throughout history, the Mongols, Genghis Khan was famous for this. Meritocracy.
That's right. Yeah.
That's one of the components of an extremely effective military force is meritocracy. It is prized. Same is true for who gets to rule. How do you determine the succession? If you're just giving it to your oldest son, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I could not agree more. There are some problems with meritocracy and civil war because it tends to, the only way you can find out, like Alexander the Great, right? Who does your empire belong to? To the strongest. What kind of guarantees the civil war? At least with giving it to your older son, who's going to be, there's an element of stability there, although you may end up with a Caligula. More likely than not, you're going to end up with a Caligula, I would say. Human nature being what it is.
It always converges to the asshole, and the asshole holds power. The crazy asshole.
Yeah.
Great Heathen Army, 865.
So the Great Heathen Army, there were war bands that each followed this guy and this guy, and I'm going to sit you down in this room. I'm going to tell you my plan. You're going to listen. You're going to push back. I'm going to push back, and we'll just have this kind of creative discussion and come up with a plan we all agree on.
So it used to be relatively small Viking groups that are doing raids.
Right.
And then the Great Heathen Army is this large coalition of Viking groups without a real leader that was able to somehow stabilize enough to have something like governance.
Yeah.
Basically, there seems to be a very rapid evolution of a Viking in every part of the world they touch. You go explorer, raid, conquer, establish state.
Yeah.
And trade routes. And always maintaining a grand ambition, but no longer doing the violence, and always being sufficiently pragmatic and flexible where you can accept conversion to Christianity, for example, if it's useful. Then accept the culture, accept the language. So that's why they integrate, and the thing that we think of as Viking kind of dissipates and disappears pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think the best example of this is France, right? So the Vikings, we'll talk about this more probably with Rollo, but the Vikings settle in France in the Northman's Duchy, which is shortened to Normandy, and they, within a generation, Rollo, whose real name is Rolf, Eric, he names his son William. That's not a Viking name. And within a generation, the language is gone. The Viking names are gone. The worship of Odin is, as far as we can tell, gone. And the Normans are building churches and marrying into the local aristocracy. And they're essentially, their Vikingness is gone, except for one thing: their incredible vitality. Which, the Normans essentially conquer kingdoms at both ends of Europe, Sicily and England, and found two of the foremost powerful states in medieval Europe.
Yeah, so the ambition is there. The vitality is there.
The methods have changed.
Yeah, and they change rapidly, which is fascinating.